Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alright, need to fix the lighting in this room. Give me 1 second. Bismillah, mashallah. Alright, it is exactly 7:30, so let's stay on time, inshallah. Already the comments are being amazing, mashallah. Alright, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Allahumma alimna ma yanfa'una wa anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa zidna ilman ya Rabbil alameen. Oh Allah, teach us what is beneficial to us and benefit us with what you have taught us and increase us in knowledge. Ameen ya Rabbil alameen. So, we are continuing with our series about the children around the Prophet. Each week, inshallah, and I think we're going to continue this even in Ramadan. Each week we'll be looking at a different companion that was around the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ as a young child or as a young teenager, and kind of grew up with him, and how Islam affected them, how the Prophet affected them, and how the Prophet ﷺ treated them. So we don't have that many people on today, subhanAllah. Only 5. We usually have a little more. Quick review. We've spoken so far about 2 people. Who have they been? Wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So for those just joining us, I'm starting off with a question. We've been talking about children around the Prophet, and so far we've spoken about 2. Which 2 did we speak about so far? MashaAllah. So, as usual, Ibrahims know everything. We spoke about Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, and we spoke about Fatima radiallahu anha. So, today, and we gave about 3 classes on them. We spoke 1 class about Ali, and then 1 class about Fatima, and then we gave a dedicated class about their marriage, which I thought was very, very interesting and beneficial, and there's a lot to learn. And subhanAllah, I wasn't expecting this, but, I actually got questions from that 1 class because I said it as a throwaway line. I was like, well, because dating is haram. And apparently that was news to a lot of young Muslims. So I got a lot of questions about, wait, say like dating is haram? Say what? So I didn't know that a lot of people did not know. It's not your fault. Islamic education in the US isn't always that great. I'm not gonna give too much time, and I can't give it the time it deserves in this class because we got a lot to cover today. But very quickly, in Islam, a man and a woman can be together and can be romantic together. You understand what I mean? Only under certain guidelines, only when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows it. Anytime you break away from that, it's like you're doing something that breaks the rule. How do I explain this a little better? Is eating in Islam haram? No, it's not. You can eat in Islam. Of course, you have to eat, otherwise you would not survive. But there are things in Islam that we can't eat. There are ways that we should not eat, and there are times that we don't eat. For example, when Ramadan starts, we're not allowed to eat. So can somebody tell you, no, eating is haram in Islam? No. But eating pork is haram, for example. Eating without saying Bismillah is haram. Eating too much is not allowed. There are different rules to that. Similarly, relationships between men and women are allowed under certain guidelines. Dating, as we understand it in modern Islam, modern America, or modern times around the world, does not always fit that, or very rarely fits that category. So when somebody wants to be with another person, there has to be some commitment, there has to be some knowledge. For example, one of the main reasons why dating is haram is that a man and a woman, or a girl and a boy, can be together without anybody knowing. And marriage is a public thing. People need to know that you're married. Can you imagine if you couldn't tell who is married to who, or who was which families belong to who. Is he my father? Is he my father? Is she my mom? Or is she my mom? I can't tell because nobody knows who's married to who. Dating, you don't know who's in a relationship with who, and that relationship can get dropped whenever you want. So that's basically some of the reasons why. Again, I don't want to dedicate this whole class to dating, but inshallah, at least for the boys, I do classes about dating and about relationships regularly enough. So inshallah, we can have a class about that. But that was just something I had to address because people were asking like, wait, dating's haram? So Bismillah. Today we're going to be talking about a new companion. This is one of my personal favorite companions. I love him for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and inshallah, after you learn about him today, maybe you will as well. So, this companion, his name is Musab ibn Umayr. Musab ibn Umayr. His name is kind of sa'ib to say. It's kind of hard to say his name. Musab ibn Umayr. That's his name. Now, here's a trick question for you guys. Musab ibn Umayr, who was his father? Umair, good. Oh, his dad was his father. MashaAllah, very smart. Yes, Umair. Again, in Arabic names, especially when you read in the Sirah, when you see bin or bint, that means son or daughter. So it's literally Mus'ab ibn Umair means Mus'ab, son of Umair. And this is very important because sometimes you get confused, like, wait, who, like when we said Fatima bint Muhammad, Fatima, son of Muhammad, they didn't really have a concept of last names like we understand it now. So, Musab ibn Umair. Who was Musab ibn Umair? What's special about him? And why is he in the series? What happened with him? So, his father was Umair, but interestingly enough, his father is not very significant to his story. Why? Because his father died when he was very, very young. So he never really knew his father. His mother, on the other hand, is very, very important to his story. His mother's name was Khunnas bint Malik. So who was her father? I'm just kidding. Yes, we know Khunnas bint Malik means her father's name was Malik. That's not important though. Khunnas bint Malik, Mus'ab's mom, she was one of the richest and most powerful women in Mecca. So this is all the way back in the days of Mecca. Khunnas bint Malik was very, very rich and very influential and very powerful. So can you imagine what her son was like? Musab ibn Umair, first of all, things to mention about him. The Quraysh loved Musab. In fact, everybody loved Musab. Musab was very young when his story begins, 13, 14, maybe 15. So we usually, like I said, when we were talking about Ali, we have estimates of dates because back then the Arabs, they didn't really record their birthdays. So it's possible that when his story started, he was either 13, 14, or 15, just like when Ali's story started, he was either 8, 9, or 10. It's usually a 3-year bracket. So he was very young, but everybody loved him. Why? This teenager was extremely handsome, right? And he had a very good personality. He was very confident. He was very likable. He was very sociable. He wasn't the kind of stay-at-home, quiet kid. No, he was very sociable. He was very likable, and he was very gorgeous. In fact, he was drop-dead gorgeous because everywhere Mus'ab went, I'm not making this up. This is what's written in the books and stuff. Girls would line up to see if they could see him, and he would pass by, and they'd be like, "Hi, Mus'ab," and be like, "Hey, ladies," And he was, first of all, he was also very rich too. He was filthy rich. He was like, may Allah forgive me for saying this, but he was pretty much a playboy. His clothes, he used to get designer clothes. So his clothes were custom made for him and his shoes were custom made for him. There are different types of being rich, right? There are some people that are rich, they have a closet full of, Jordans and Yeezys and all these brand name shoes, but there's a level of rich above that, which is you're so rich you don't buy brand name shoes. You get your shoes made for you. Like the designer comes, he scans your foot and he makes, a shoe just for you. And he used to get his shoes custom made from Yemen, and it used to be imported to Mecca. And so back then, when something was made from Yemen, that's like saying, I got my shoes custom made from Japan or Paris or something like that. It's like, woo, you used to really show how rich you were. Another sign of, how rich he was, and his lifestyle was that his clothing used to drag behind him, meaning he used to wear really long clothing and it used to drag behind him. And this was something people used to do back then to show how rich they were. Because, if your clothes are dragging on the floor, it's going to get ripped and it's going to get dirty. But if you're so rich, you don't care because you'll just buy another one. Right? So he was very likable and he had a very beautiful voice. So he used to go out, in the city, and people would, the paparazzi would kind of follow him and they'd ask him, please sing a song for us. And he'd sing, and he had such a beautiful voice. Like when you had like Justin Bieber or something like that, those really young guys, those young pop stars, and they would sing and the girls are all screaming and he'd throw his jacket and they'd go. This was literally what Musab ibn Umayr was in Mecca. Very popular, very rich, very high lifestyle. His mom got him anything and everything he wanted or needed. And he was a very likable person, right? He was had a very confident personality, very handsome, like I said. They even said that his mom used to buy him so much cologne, or tlib, or misk, as they used to call it back then in Arabic, the oil that you put, like perfume, that you could smell him before you saw him. Like when he came somewhere, you would smell the smell of Mus'ab before you saw Mus'ab. So I'm setting the stage for right now of this kid, what kind of life he was living. Very privileged, borderline spoiled, pretty much. Yeah, he was spoiled. And again, his mom used to get him whatever he wanted: the best shoes, the best clothes, the best horses. How you talk about nowadays, like, oh, everybody has, a garage full of nice sports cars and stuff. Back then, you used to get like purebred Arabian horses with the color that you wanted. And, this is the race horse, this is the trick horse, this is the pony, this is the whatever horse. So they had all of that. And these things, subhanAllah, it doesn't change with time. It just change, like, the archetypes of people you see don't change through time. It just changes what it looks like. Jayyid. So, Mus'ab, with his beautiful lifestyle, and he was very liked to Quraysh. The Quraysh used to invite him to their tribal meetings, even though he was very young, and this was something usually reserved for the elders. But because he was so popular and he was famous and everyone liked him, they're like, yeah, let him come to our meetings as well. And they would discuss things and they would talk about things. Now, around this time, Mus'ab comes to one of the meetings, and the Qurashi elders are discussing the biggest problem that's happening to them right now, which is what? It is a man named Muhammad ibn Abdullah. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was causing, well, he wasn't causing, but in their eyes, he was causing a lot of problems for the people in Mecca. So they're discussing, they said, oh, the rumors. At this point, it was just rumors. Nothing public had happened yet. But the elders were discussing that Muhammad is up to something. Excuse me. I said he was up to something and he's causing issues. And it seems like he's starting his own religion. And people are beginning to listen to him, and suspicious things are beginning to happen. And they said that it seems like they're meeting and he's giving them classes. Now, here's a question for you guys I've mentioned in classes before. Who knows the name of the HQ of the Muslims in Mecca, where they used to have their secret meetings? I'll give you a hint. Lots of schools and masajid are named after this. But what was the name of the place where they used to have their meetings? The Kaaba. Not the Kaaba, no. Nope. Anybody know? Secret location where they used to have their meetings, where Islam first started. The question is, does anybody know the name of the place where the Muslims used to have their secret meetings, where the Rasul first used to teach? Al-Aman, mashallah. No. Nope. Good guess, though. It's like, it's named after a masjid. Why not? Next thing you know, MBIC. Okay, so write this down because it's very important. Bismillah. I need my water. So, the name of the secret location of the HQ was called Darul Arqam. I already know some people right now are going, oh, yes, Darul Arqam. which literally means the house of Arqam. This was the secret meeting place of the Muslims at the time. And the elders were speaking, and they said, it seems like he's having meetings at Dar al-Arqam. Now Mus'ab heard this, and he heard that there were a group of people with Muhammad, and they're secretly hiding, and they're making kind of a new religion, and they're changing their lives. That's what the meeting, what they were saying. He says these people are trying to change their lives. And that appealed a lot to Mus'ab. He got very curious. Why would Mus'ab get very curious about people trying to change their lives? Let's see. So one night, Mus'ab decides to go to Dar al-Arqam. In the middle of the night, he goes to Dar al-Arqam, and he sees that, there are people inside, there's lights, there's whispering, they're trying to be, there's something going on in there. So he goes and he knocks on the door. They open the door and they see Mus'ab, and they're very surprised, like, Mus'ab, what are you doing here? He said, I heard there's like a meeting or something, can I come in? I'm like, yeah, sure, ahla wa sahla, come in. They're very happy to see Mus'ab. And the Rasul ﷺ is there, and he's giving a class. This is when, subhanAllah, every masjid in America, they say, I remember this masjid when it was just in a basement in someone's house. SubhanAllah, this is like kind of similar. Before they had a masjid, they were just kind of doing classes in a house. So the Rasul ﷺ was giving a class, and Mus'ab comes and sits down, and he's very young, and everyone else there is kind of like an adult. And the Rasul ﷺ was in the middle of a class. He sees Mus'ab, he says, come, sit down, and he continues with his class. And Mus'ab says that the class was about Jahannam. It was about hellfire and what happens to people after they die. And the Rasul ﷺ was speaking about the akhirah, that those that follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and worship only Allah and do good, they'll go to Jannah, and he describes Jannah. And those that do evil, they'll go to Jahannam. And Mus'ab is hearing this stuff, and this is the first time he's ever heard any of it. I've never thought of this before. And then the Rasul ﷺ starts reading Quran. He starts reciting Quran. And Mus'ab hears this, and again, I've never heard anything like this before. And this is true. If you ever see a non-Muslim, when the first time they hear Quran, they don't know what to make of it. It's very different than what they're used to. Some people, I've seen some non-Muslims, they go into a trance. Some of them, they're like, what kind of music is this? Some of them, they start crying. They don't know how to react. It's a very strange experience for them. SubhanAllah. And that's one of the miracles of the Quran. So when the meeting finishes up and the class finishes, Mus'ab comes to the Rasul ﷺ, and he really likes everything he heard. And he said, can I be part of this? And the Rasul ﷺ puts his hand on Mus'ab's chest, and Mus'ab said, the moment he put his hand on my chest, I knew immediately that I wanted to be a Muslim. He said, I want to be a Muslim too. So he takes his shahada, and that night he becomes a Muslim. And he goes like, I can't wait. I want to tell my mom about this. Now the Rasul ﷺ is very, very wise, and he knows he's a little wiser than Mus'ab and probably everyone there. He says, why don't you keep this secret for now? Don't tell your mom just yet. Kind of take it easy first, and step by step, maybe later. So Mus'ab is like, no, I know my mom, but if that's what you say, that's fine, but she's cool, don't worry about her. So, the next day he's talking to his mom, and he says, Mom, I have a question. What happens to us after we die? And his mom is just like, Mus'ab, what are you asking this kind of question for? Like, come on, you're young, you have your whole life ahead of you. What do you need to talk about what happens after you die? Come on, let's go buy you a new horse. And Mus'ab is like, okay, I'm not satisfied with this answer. And he really begins to have his heart lean towards the Muslims, and he starts going to Dar al-Arqam every day, and his heart begins to lean towards everything that Islam has to offer. He loves the Quran more than he loves singing now. He loves his Muslim brothers and sisters more than his kind of rich friends now. And he starts going every day, and he becomes very, very knowledgeable. One day when he's going to Dar al-Arqam, one of the disbelievers sees him sneaking into the house. And he's like, busted. And the next morning, Mus'ab, he's at home, and he sees his mom, and he sees his whole family there. And, it's like they got their arms folded. And it's like an intervention, And his mom, Khunnas, she goes like, I have one question for you. Were you or were you not at Dar al-Arqam last night? And Mus'ab was like, yes, I was. And she asked him, so have you become a Muslim, yes or no? And he says, yeah, Mom, I've become a Muslim. His mom stands up, runs to the nearest man there, like one of the guards. She had guards in her house because she was rich. She grabs his spear and runs at Musab, trying to hit him. And people are holding her back. Whoa, 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 calm down, calm down. She's so mad and so infuriated by what Musab did. And Musab is so shocked. He's never seen his mom like this. His mom used to spoil him her entire life and his entire life. He's never seen his mom behave like this before. And she's so mad and she's so infuriated that she almost wants to hit him with this spear. And the family sit him down and they start talking to him. They say, Musab, you are a very noble, very likable, popular, famous person, and you come from an amazing family and you are wealthy. Why would you do this to your family? You're rejecting everything. But Musab is not having any of it. He's not having any of it. He's not listening at all. And his family keeps on trying to convince him, but he refuses and he does not listen. And he says, no, I want to stay a Muslim and you guys should be Muslim too. Here's a question for you guys. Why do you think Musab is so in love with the idea of Islam that he's willing to hold on to it even when his whole family is against him? There's no wrong answer, but I'm just curious, and I want to eat my dates. Because wise people know that life is short and the afterlife is forever. Very good answer, mashallah. What else? Why is Mus'ab... Well, let's hold on off for that for a second. Because it gives his life meaning, subhanAllah. Very good answer. Before, and you can obviously see this not just with Mus'ab, but with anybody who's rich or famous. When you have everything you want, you have nothing if you don't have meaning. Because most people, unfortunately, they make their life goal trying to get everything they want, which most people won't be able to get. A lot of people will spend their whole life trying to get rich, and they'll never get rich. But that's the meaning in their life. But for people who are already rich, or they've achieved fame and fortune, and they've achieved all their dreams, now what? What else does life have to offer? If you don't have a greater purpose in your life, you're going to feel very, very empty, right? And for us, subhanAllah, a lot of times it's like we're thinking about, it's like, how, man? Like, if you have a mansion, why would you be upset? When we hear about celebrities going through difficulties, it's like, well, what do they have to be upset about? Their life is perfect. Their material life may be perfect, but their spiritual life, the purpose in their life is very empty. And we don't see that with our eyes, right? Mus'ab already had fame and fortune, and he had everything a young person could possibly have. But the message of Islam appealed to him so much because now he has a purpose. It's not just, I wake up in the morning, I eat the best food, I wear the best clothes, I go out, all the girls love me, and all my friends love me, and I play. And if we translate it to nowadays, one of the biggest problem with American Muslim youth that I've seen with my eyes is materialism. Every Muslim American kid, just like every American kid, thinks that to make it in this life, you have to be a YouTube star. You have to be an athlete, an NBA athlete, a movie star. I gotta have a 6-figure salary. I gotta be the CEO of this company. Great goals. But if that's the only thing that you want to achieve in your life, you're going to be very disappointed. Because you only have 2 feet. So it doesn't matter how many pairs of shoes you have. It doesn't matter what kind of car you drive. At the end of the day, you're still going to go from point A to point B. The Rasul ﷺ himself said, if the son of Adam was given a valley of gold, he would want a second. Human beings just can't be satisfied. So, yes, very good response. So, in any case, Mus'ab was very firm in his faith. He said, I'm not going to leave Islam. So his mom, she did not know what to do. So she told the guards, tie him up and put him under house arrest. He does not leave this house anymore. He's grounded. If going outside and talking to people is gonna make him behave like this, no more going outside. He's stuck in this house. So he was tied up, and she had a guard watch him day and night. She would feed him, she would like, take care of him, but he was like tied up and chained up, and he could not leave the house. And at this time, this was the time when Muslims were going through very harsh persecution. Musab had it actually pretty easy compared to some of the other companions. Maybe we'll talk about next week. We might talk about Ammar. You'll see what they did to some of the other companions. They were tortured. So Musab was kind of stuck. And he was stuck in his home, and he wasn't able to leave for a very long time. Now, subhanAllah, for those that know in Sirah, the Muslims eventually, especially the ones that were persecuted, migrated to Abyssinia. Before they migrated to Medina, they went to Africa. And when Mus'ab heard about this, like through the window, or he kind of somebody, a spy or somebody might have snuck him the information that they were going, he waited one day when the guard was like asleep. And Mus'ab had been chained up for so long that he kind of got thin. His wrists were no longer, full anymore. That his wrists got kind of thin. He was able to kind of get out of the shackles, and he escaped. And he went with the Muslims, and he migrated to Abyssinia. And he left everything he had behind him. He went with the Muslims to Africa. Now, I don't want to take too much time explaining this, but basically what happened in the larger story of the Sirah, an incident happened in Mecca, and it started causing rumors to spread that all the people of Mecca accepted Islam, which wasn't true. But something happened. I can't go into the tangent of exactly what happened. Something happened in Mecca, and it caused rumors to spread that everyone in Mecca became Muslim. So when the Muslims that went to Abyssinia heard, they came back. And when they came back, they found out that this wasn't true. So Mus'ab came back to Mecca, and he found out that this wasn't true. But he was happy he was back because he wanted to see the Rasul. As he was walking, either to go to Dar al-Arqam or to go wherever, his mom saw him. Khunnas, she saw him. And she saw him, and she was shocked. Because, first of all, it had been a very long time. He'd grown up a bit, now he has a beard. But also because the state he was in, so thin, and his clothes were tattered. He wasn't wearing the jewels, he didn't have the perfume, he wasn't riding a good animal. She was so shocked to see him this way. And when she saw him this way, um, she starts begging him. She said, Mus'ab, you went through all of this, you traveled, I locked you up. Isn't it time that you came back? Remember how happy you were? Remember in the daytime, we used to go to the marketplace, and we used to buy you, good stuff, and you used to sing, and, I could get you married to whatever girl you want. Don't you miss those days? Come back, come back to our religion, come back to worshiping idols. Go against Muhammad. What do you want with this? Look at what it's done to you. And she's begging him. In her eyes, she wants what's best for him, right? But Mus'ab said, Ya Ummi, I refuse. I will follow Muhammad no matter what. And she said, Wallahi Mus'ab, I swear to God, Mus'ab, if you continue with this, all of your money, everything you've ever owned, all the closets of clothes and shoes, the animals, the jewels, all the possessions that you own, you will not see any of it ever again. It's all going to be gone. Like, you will basically be poor. And Mus'ab said, Ya Ummi, take it all. And she does not understand this at all. She's shocked. She said, why would he throw away? Because to a non-Muslim, to someone that doesn't have any iman in their heart, somebody not caring about money makes no sense to them. They don't understand it at all, right? Somebody doing something like that, to them doesn't make any sense. So she said, if you don't come back, you won't see any of the money. He says, take it. I don't care. So then she becomes desperate. She said, I'm going to lock you up again. And Mus'ab looks his mom dead in the eyes. I love this part. He looks his mom dead in the eyes and says, Mom, if you lock me up, the next morning, you're going to have a funeral for the guard. He says, that's it. I'm not playing your game anymore. He's grown up. He says, if you try to lock me up one more time, whatever guard you put on me, the next morning, you're going to be having the funeral for him. That's it. And he turns his back and leaves. And subhanAllah, We talk about over and over again in Islam how you should respect your parents and you should always be kind to your parents. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself says, وَإِن جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِاللَّهِ I'm messing it up because there are three ayahs that are very similar. But basically, if it says, if your parents force you to go against Allah, فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا, do not obey them. And Musab turned his back on his mom. Okay, does she go to heaven or hell? I don't think she ever became a Muslim, but she received the revelation just like everyone in Mecca. Everyone in Mecca got the message of Islam. It's not like it was something secret that they didn't hear about. In the beginning, it was secret, but eventually everyone, it became public. Everyone heard about Islam. So, Allahu Alam, it goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't have any hadith that mentions if she goes to heaven or hell, but I don't think she died on Islam. In any case, he walks off, and then subhanallah, Mus'ab's uncle catches up with him. And Mus'ab's uncle said, did you say this to your mom and you rejected her family and everything? And he said, yes, I did. He said, okay, so you said you don't want any of the money, you don't want any of the possessions? And he says, I don't want any of it. So he said, take off all your clothes. He said, those clothes, they belong to your father and he paid for it. If you don't want it, take it all off. It belongs to us. And subhanAllah, look how like petty they became. He made Mus'ab take everything off and he had to walk in the street completely naked. Subhanallah, he went from having clothing that dragged behind him in the street, so much so, and it was custom tailored. Now he's walking in the street completely naked. And he's doing this willingly. He goes to the Rasul ﷺ covering himself up and he says, I don't know what to do. I have no place to go. And the Rasul ﷺ is able to give him some clothing, something just to cover himself at least. And Mus'ab doesn't know what to do anymore because now he's rock bottom. Absolutely nothing. Has no house, has no clothes, has nothing. And he's happy with this, subhanAllah. This is what it means to sacrifice for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wow, it's already 8 o'clock. Okay, I'm not going to take too much time. The Rasul ﷺ has an idea, though. His idea is that at this point, the first Aqaba had taken place. So the first people of Medina had accepted Islam. And they asked the Rasul, can you send somebody to Medina to teach us about Islam because we need somebody who can teach us. So the Rasul ﷺ said this is a perfect opportunity. Mus'ab knows a lot about Islam and he has no place to go anyways. So he sends Mus'ab as an ambassador to Medina. When Mus'ab goes to Medina, there's interesting, funny story, but we don't have too much time. Basically, when he goes there, he goes to Medina. Because of Mus'ab's teaching and preaching, most of Medina becomes Muslim. So you guys know when you're learning about seerah and stuff, you're always scratching your head. It's like 1 minute nobody likes Muslims, the next minute you have a whole city of Muslims. What happened in between? It's because Mus'ab was there for some time and they liked Mus'ab so much and they liked the way he gave the message, and he was very, subhanAllah, he had a very likable attitude. Most of them accepted Islam from Mus'ab. And he was actually one of the first people to start Salatul Jum'ah because the Rasul ﷺ told him, okay, now that you're safe in Medina, start doing Salatul Jum'ah. When the Muslims did Hijrah to Medina, because Mus'ab was the first one there, when all the Muslims did Hijrah to Medina, finally, they saw Mus'ab come into the masjid and they saw him, again, tattered clothing, completely poor. Some of the Muhajirin started crying when they saw Mus'ab because they were crying and they're like, oh my God, can you imagine seeing somebody you knew your whole life living in luxury and opulence, and then a few years later you see him looking completely homeless, looking so poor. And they started crying. And the Rasul ﷺ said, listen to this carefully, this is very important. The Rasul ﷺ said, don't worry. He said, there's going to be a time when you will all be so wealthy that you will have enough clothing that you'll wear something in the daytime and wear something else at night. Think about this for a second. In our times now, we have clothes for work, we have clothes for school, we have pajamas, we have gym clothes, winter clothes, swim clothes. We have clothes for every occasion, formal clothes, business casual clothes, for party clothes, whatever clothes you can think of. We have like 100 outfits. I'm guilty of this. All of our closets are full. For the companions, when they're hearing this, is like, whoa, like we'll have enough clothing where we can wear 2 different outfits in one day? Subhanallah. Like, look how far we've come. And they asked the Rasul ﷺ though, they said, will we be better off in that time? And the Rasul ﷺ said, no, you're better off now. Again, the message of Islam shows that material stuff, clothing, um, whatever, the car you drive, the job you have, the phone you have, none of it really matters. It's not that important. It matters only if it gets you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's something that youth fail to realize all the time, and something that Mus'ab understood almost immediately. That stuff does not matter. It really does not. If you think people are going to respect you more because you have the latest iPhone or because you're wearing, I remember when I was in middle school, tangent, but I always use this example. When I was in middle school, there were these designer jackets called Ed Hardy jackets. And they were ugly as anything. They were so ugly. They looked like they were just really ugly. And each jacket was like $300, $400, $500, like expensive jackets, right? And anybody who was anybody had to have this jacket, right? And I remember I was like, I don't get it. My jacket does the same job and it looks better too. And it's like 20 times cheaper. But everyone respected anyone wearing an Ed Hardy jacket. Now, I don't think the brand is even well known. I don't think anyone even knows. They might have even gone bankrupt. I don't know. But subhanallah, human beings are naturally inclined to care about this stuff, but that's not what the message of Islam is. The Rasul is literally saying you're better off. You're better off now when you have barely anything to wear. Um, Moving forward, Musab ibn Umayr, as an honor to him, when the battle of Badr started, the Rasul gave him the flag of Islam. So the banner, so you know when you have two armies in medieval times, somebody would be carrying the banner. And how would they know if one person won or the other side won? If you could kill the person holding the flag, or if the flag fell, then the army would run away. They lost. All right, it's like capture the flag, a little more intense. So he gave him the honor of holding the flag. The Battle of Badr, as you guys know, was a victory for the Muslims. They won, and they captured a lot of the disbelievers. Such an interesting story. One of the people they captured on the side of the Quraysh was Musab's little brother. So they captured Musab and he was tied up, right? And they had all the prisoners in one spot and they were feeding them and they were taking good care of them because the Rasul told them to take good care of him. So one of the Muslims was holding Musab's brother captive. And Musab came and he said, my brother, tie him up tighter because his mom is rich and she'll probably pay a good ransom to set him free. And Musab's brother is confused. He says, are you talking to me? Because Musab came and he said, my brother, tie him up tighter. He says, are you talking to me? I'm the one tied up. And Musab says, هَذَا أَخِي مِن دُونِكَ. He said, he points to the Muslim who had captured him. He said, this is my brother, not you. Subhanallah. The family of Islam, the family of faith, is more important than blood family. And we see this time and time and time again, that sometimes your brothers in faith are closer to you than your brother. Because Mus'ab's brother and his family hated Islam and they fought against Islam. So Mus'ab said, هَذَا أَخِي مِن دُونِكَ. This is my brother, not you. SubhanAllah. So, unfortunately, the story of Mus'ab comes to a tragic end at the Battle of Uhud. So again, for those who attended the Sirah class, or for those who know about the Battle of Uhud, was a very terrible tragedy for the Muslims. Mus'ab was also the flag bearer at that time. And when the Muslims got scattered, a group of horsemen chased after the Prophet. And the Rasul was with a group of Muslims, and one by one they were killing all the Muslims until there was like one or two left and the Rasul. And about 50 people were after the Rasul and they shot him in the face with an arrow and they hit him. They were going to kill him. This was the closest the Prophet ever came to dying. He was severely injured in this battle. Mus'ab saw what was happening. He gets on his horse, grabs the flag, and rides towards the men that were attacking the Prophet, and he started shouting, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, it's me. And he's waving the flag frantically. Now, when they see him holding the flag that says La ilaha illallah on it, the Muslim flag, they immediately change course from the Prophet to Musab. And actually, one of the narrations, it's mentioned that Musab put on one of the armor pieces of the Prophet. So that when they saw him, some people from far away, they thought he was the Prophet. And he started distracting them, and he started riding, waving the flag frantically, come after me, it's me, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And the mushrikun, they chase after him, and he lured them away from the Prophet. And he was surrounded in every direction, and they start beating him and slashing him and stabbing him with their swords and their spears, and the whole time he's just waving the flag and using his other arm with the sword. And the whole time he's saying, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ أَفَإِنْ مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انقَلَبْتُمْ عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُم. He says, and Muhammad is nothing more than a prophet. Prophets have come before him. If he is killed or he died, are you going to reject Islam? He says this like with pure conviction. He says, Muhammad is a prophet just like any other prophet. If he dies or he's killed, are you going to reject Islam? And he was saying this because the Muslim army actually believed that the Prophet was killed. Because when he was shot in the face, he fell unconscious. And the person who shot him said, I did it, I killed Muhammad. So everyone thought that Muhammad was dead. So Mus'ab started saying this, and a man came and slashed his arm with a sword. So his arm that was holding the flag, he chopped his arm off with the sword, and the flag fell. And Mus'ab dropped his sword and caught it with his other arm. And he lifts it up again, and they're still beating him and attacking him and basically killing him. And they slash his other arm with a sword as well. And the flag falls again, and he grabs the flag with whatever he has left of his body. And he's holding it under his neck, and he's desperately trying to keep the flag of La ilaha illallah up. And then after the battle, the Rasul ﷺ, he survives, and a lot of the Sahaba did survive, but a lot of them were killed. They find Mus'ab's body with the flag, and he's slumped, and they count 70 wounds on him. Every part of his body has a wound. They completely slaughtered him, dead. And the Rasul ﷺ sees his body, and he starts crying. And he said, Bakhin, bakh ya Mus'ab. Sorry, no, he doesn't say that. He said, Min al-mu'minina rijalun sadaqu ma ahadullah alayh. He says, there are some of the believers who fulfilled their promise to Allah. When he saw what happened to Mus'ab, he said, some of the believers, and this is a verse from the Quran, and what Mus'ab actually said right before he died, Allah honored him and put that as a verse in the Quran. So that the words he said, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ, that became a verse of the Quran in Surah Al-Imran. And for those that know, again, who know Sirah, you know how significant this verse is. This is the verse that Abu Bakr said many years later when the masjid went into panic mode, when the Rasul ﷺ actually did pass away. He reminds them of this verse, Mus'ab's last words. He says it to the people in the masjid, and they all understand what he's saying. When they come to bury him, they went through his material belongings to try to find something to cover him, because a Muslim, when they bury him, they cover a Muslim in a shroud. They could only find a small piece of cloth. When they covered his face, his feet would show. When they covered his feet, his face would show. So they couldn't even find a cloth to cover him with. And the Rasul said, Bakhin, bakh ya Mus'ab. He said, oh my God, Mus'ab. He said, Wallahi, I never knew anyone with a more luxurious life, and now we can't even find anything to bury you with. And then he said, Fil jannati liqa. He said, I'll meet you in Jannah, Mus'ab. And that's the end of his story, subhanAllah. Mus'ab probably died in his mid to late 20s. So he didn't live a very long life. Maybe he reached the age of 30. He didn't live a very long life. And when he was younger, he had everything. And he threw that all away for Allah and His Prophet. And he died a very gruesome death. But Musab ibn Umayr, if we're going to learn anything from him, is that he understood the fundamental of Islam. This life is very, very cheap. It's finite. It ends so fast. You can live 100 years. The day you're going to die, you're going to say, I saw my life flash in the blink of an eye. It was so fast. It's not worth anything. No matter what you get in this life, cars, electronics, beautiful houses, beautiful women, beautiful vacations, beautiful whatever you can think of, it's not going to be enough because that's not what we were created for. We were created to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We were created for that purpose. Mus'ab understood this and he was willing to sacrifice everything. He threw away his entire luxurious playboy life. He threw that away. The same life that all of us we wish that we had. It's like, oh, I wish I had millions of dollars. Oh, I wish I had this car and that car and this house and I could go on vacation every other weekend. I wish I didn't have to work a day in my life. He threw that all away. And he chose instead to like be imprisoned in his house, to be kicked out of his country, to be thrown into the streets naked, and to be, stabbed 70 times and have his arms amputated and he was killed. He chose that life instead because he understood that Jannah is what we're fighting for. That La ilaha illallah, and that's why Allah blessed him with being the flag bearer of Islam. His life literally represents the sacrifice it takes to say La ilaha illallah. And really compare it with ourselves. We don't have to run into the battlefield, most of us anyways, alhamdulillah. Saying Allah is my Lord and praying, our parents are not going to like lock us up or anything like that. We don't have to sacrifice very much. So what we can learn is that even though we don't have to sacrifice very much, we should also understand what we're here for. We can sometimes get a little distracted and we can get a little sidetracked from that. So I hope that this story, inshallah, opens our eyes a bit, increases the knowledge, and inshallah, make dua that all of us now and in Ramadan, we can kind of adopt that mentality, be a little more generous. Okay, I'll answer that question in a bit. We can be a bit more generous, inshallah, and understand the meaning of life, because that's really what Musab ibn Umayr. If anyone has any questions, now is the time to ask. Okay, as for Pencil Mater's question, when is the class on Monday going to be from now on because of Ramadan? Probably after Asr. I haven't decided just yet because I'm working out some other things, but I'll let everybody know, inshallah. We will be continuing this class, inshallah. And I'll let you guys know the new time. It's probably going to be after Asr, so maybe 5:30 or something like that. Any questions before I end? وإياكم بارك الله فيكم. Okay, so Hazim wants a shout out. So you get a shout out, Hazim. Who else? Okay, Ziad gets a shout out. You all get shout outs, except that kid over there. I'm not gonna give him a shout out. Okay, fine. Amir Taha, you get a shout out. What? I gave you a shout out. Shout out to Amir Taha. Like, subscribe, visit his house, steal his candy. All right, guys. I love you guys. All right. Without further ado, if anyone has any questions, you can text me later, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر ان الانسان لفي خسر الا الذين امنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Don't forget to pray Maghrib, guys. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.